Well, hello everyone. Ogre27 Kane here today, and we're gonna do my top 10 HD remasters for Nintendo Switch. So this list is a bunch of HD remasters from previous consoles, and this list will be a little bit different from my top 10 ports, as none of these games are from current gen consoles. They are all HD remasters from previous generations. This list is according to what I think the quality of each remaster was, and how I rank them according to how they were redone. This isn't really a list necessarily of my favorite in order of these games, but rather a list of how well I thought these HD remasters came out. So let's start out with the first one. So this is a remaster of a 3DS game, and it's a really good one. I'll be honest, I tried to play the 3DS version of this game, but it was a little difficult for me to get into. Since they've gone through all the work and brought it up to the Nintendo Switch, it looks fantastic and it runs great. All the little quality of life improvements are fantastic, and the graphics and animation look really good considering what console it was on. This is an RPG, but it's not a traditional one where you just build stats and grow your characters. Rather, you go and complete maps and go around to different areas to do quests, and as you do, your characters will get random upgrades to them. You'll get random skills and random spells, and the game itself has a certain amount of RNG to it. But this doesn't really bother me, as it's not a terribly difficult game, it just requires a little bit of thought and positioning with your characters. There's also a wide cast of I believe 7 different characters that really gives you a ton of variation to play this game. Now at the beginning, you're given the choice of which main character you want, and then it gives you 2 side characters to complete your quest. The true goal of this game really is to just play it through multiple times and see each character. So let's move on to our next game now. So in here at number 9, we have Final Fantasy VIII HD Remaster. And although I would have much rather preferred Final Fantasy VII or 9 to get this treatment, it is still a nice treat to see this old PS1 classic get all of these wonderful updates. The textures, resolution, frame rate, animation quality, everything in this game is updated and much better. This is not my favorite of all the Final Fantasies, it's a little lower on the list for me, but I do have to give some major kudos to how well they did on this. It looks fantastic. If you enjoy Final Fantasy VIII, I would say this may be one of the definitive ways to play this game, as it really does clean up a lot of textures and really does give a lot more to the story itself. This was the first Final Fantasy for me. 7 was kinda there, but this was the first one for me that really humanized the players and made them look like I did. And this game really kinda set me back in the story and how wonderful it was, but I got really frustrated with the combat system. Don't let that bother you. If you're a fan of this, go out and pick it up. The physical version is still fairly cheap, and I highly recommend it. So let's move on. So in here at number 8, I had a little bit of a dilemma on my hands. Assassin's Creed 2 The Ezio Collection, Assassin's Creed 3 Remaster, and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag are all great HD updates of their counterparts. But I have to say the first one I played out of all 3 of them was this one, and this one blew me away. I really didn't expect them to do half this good a job. Playing this game originally back on the Xbox 360, it was a lot of fun, but there was a lot of jank to it. Now that I played it on the Switch, there really is a lot of surprising quality updates done to it, and yes, maybe it's not to the competency of the PS4 version, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth your look on it. If you like the Assassin's Creed series, all 3 of these games are great updates, and they did a great job. It's just personally for me, Assassin's Creed 3 holds a special place in my heart. There was a lot going on for me in my life when this game came out, and it really ties a lot of memories back to me. On top of that, I love the history to this game, and I love the time period. It is probably my favorite time period of all the Assassin's Creeds. Check out this game and all the updates they did. It's really worth it. Let's move on now. So in here at number 7, we have Onimusha Warlords, and this is an HD remaster I truly did not expect. This is one of my favorite PlayStation 2 games of all time, and I am highly grateful that they chose to put this on the Nintendo Switch. I do have to mention there is some weirdness though, because the cutscenes themselves are still in their original resolution, while the rest of the gameplay and all the elements and artwork to it are updated with new HD textures and resolution. It's kind of weird and it throws you off when it jumps between these two, but it does not affect the gameplay at all, and it really does stay as true to its original form as you can possibly get. This game is an absolute gem. If you never played this back on the PlayStation 2, I highly recommend checking it out. It's Resident Evil set in ancient Japan with some really interesting characters and some great enemies. There's also some hilarious dialogue that takes place, as this is during that PS2 generation when they were really trying to figure out voiceovers. The game has a lot of fantastic value to it, and you can still pick up a physical copy from Japan with English on the cart. It's not too expensive, and it's a game that's worth having in your collection if you enjoy these. So, let's move on now to our next one. So in here at number 6, we have the Alliance Alive HD Remaster. This is a remaster of an old 3DS game that was brought to us by the same people that made Legend of Legacy. The game is very similar in the sense that it does not have experience points, and it's totally built on randomness in how you learn your attacks and magics, defenses, and so on and so forth. But the game has a great structure to it and a fantastic story. It really does propel you on and keep you going, and it's not too difficult to the point to where the game holds you back at any one set. Everything about this game is fun, and it really is a refinement on what they were trying to do with Legend of Legacy. The only negative thing I have to say about this game is they didn't print enough copies and now it's stupid rare. This game runs around $100 right now on eBay, and I think that's kind of ridiculous. It is a fun game, and it's totally worth your time and effort, but these high prices on some of these lower print games are getting a little out of hand. This is a game everybody should enjoy, and it disappoints me that they just did not produce enough. I really don't like it when companies like this don't have enough faith in their products when they have a great product. The demand is here for this game, and we could even use a third one in this series if you'll call it. But the Nintendo Switch is a great console to house it, and I really think you should check this out. So let's move on. So in here at number 5, we have The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. This is a remaster I truly didn't expect, because I thought we were going to get Twilight Princess and Wind Waker first, but I'm okay with it. It's not a bad Zelda game. It does get a bit of a bad rap because of the controls on it, but outside of that, the artwork and the story are very, very well done. The other cool thing to this game is what you're seeing right here with the Skyloft. This is one of the cooler aspects to any Zelda game, and I'm really disappointed Tears of the Kingdom didn't have a sort of scenario setting like this. Being able to take one of these birds with you would have been absolutely amazing on that adventure. That's out of the way though, this really is a great remaster, and it really does have updated and quality visuals to it. The only other thing I have to mention is that having to toggle between your sword and camera is pretty annoying with the right stick, and it's disappointing that you can't switch the toggle button itself to be opposing to what it is. I would much rather be able to hold down the button and control my sword than have to hold down the button and control my camera. This small gripe out of the way, it is totally a great game, and it's totally worth your money. Check it out if you're a Zelda fan, as it is essentially the beginning to the entire saga. But let's move on now to our next. So in here at number 4, I had a bit of a dilemma. It was either Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy XII. And I chose to go with 10 because 10 to me is a truer HD remaster than 12 was. 12 had a lot of additional content from the international versions and other things that I had never seen or explored, and it almost feels like a remake to me at how much smoother and faster the gameplay experience is with it. Now, 10 on the other hand is very true to its original form, and yes, it does include the international content, but none of that really directly impacts most of the gameplay or story itself. A lot of that is endgame content and things that you don't even have to experience if you don't want to. Now that all out of the way, the textures and resolution on this game were updated and look fantastic. The game is also smooth as silk compared to most other PS2 games that I've seen updated, and it looks really good in terms of the artwork, how it stood up over time. The only other thing that I really have to mention about this is, once again with that PS2 jank, you gotta get really used to the bad voice acting and voiceovers because almost every game showed this off, and Final Fantasy X is notorious for the last scene. If you've ever played this game, it is still intact just the way it was, and it will still make you cringe and laugh at the same time. So let's move on now. So at our number 3 spot, we have Darksiders War Mastered Edition, and in my opinion, this is how you properly remaster a game. Not only does it have a great quality mode, which updates all of the textures and resolutions, but you also have the best part, a performance mode, which gives you a damn near locked 60 FPS. And that's really hard to find on the Switch. This game runs absolutely smooth as silk. And coming from the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions, this game was a very worthy update to me, and it belongs in your collection. The game is pretty cheap still, you can pick it up just about anywhere online, and the game really does epitomize what should be done and how a game should be handled when it's being brought up to a new generation. It's really disappointing to see how poor the treatment given to Darksiders 2 was, but this one in my opinion is a little bit better game, so I'll take what I can get. If you enjoy the Darksiders games, this is by far the best one on the Switch, and it's a pretty cheap price point, around $20 or $30. This game is still viable in its current form, and it's an action RPG that reminds everybody what you can do with the Zelda formula if you try really hard and have your own take on it. So let's move on now to our number 2 spot. With our number 2 spot going to Dark Souls, I better explain myself, as it is probably not quite up to the standard of Darksiders before it. But I came from the original Xbox 360 version, which had one of the most broken frame rates and jank all over the place you could imagine. This game runs absolutely buttery smooth on the Switch, and they fixed so many of those little details that it will blow your mind. I did play the PS4 version through after I finished this version, but I still come back to the Switch one. Having this game handheld is a huge deal for me, being a father. I don't always have the time to sit in front of a TV, and it's really difficult for me to even get the TV sometimes. I have to play this game where I can and play other games on the go, and so the Switch truly has become my primary source of gaming. That being said, I would love to get Dark Souls 2 and 3, but I realize they're a little more complicated and a little bit more going on than this one was. This game has some great updates, and you really need to check out Blighttown to see what I'm talking about. The stability and the control that you have in this one really make it a fun experience. I don't think it's terribly expensive, but I know they didn't print too many copies, so if you are interested, check it out before it gets too late. This game has some of the funnest combat in it still, and a fantastic world with lore that's always worth your time and effort. If you need a good Darksiders experience on the Switch, Dark Souls, this is the one to play. So let's move on. My number 1 spot has to go to Metroid Prime Remastered. Not only is this one of my favorite games of all time, but is also probably the best remaster I've ever seen. The game stays extremely close to its original source material, only slightly changing little bits here and there to fit with the new console that it's on. The game has a locked frame rate, and it has a new updated control scheme. If you remembered playing this on the GameCube, it was a little difficult because you only had the one control stick and your other stick controlled your guns. On this one, they allowed the control stick to control your camera, so now you can strafe a lot more easily, and you can really get into the battles at a much faster and more frenetic pace. And yes, the Wii version did have an updated control scheme, which was very similar to this, but having this updated resolution and graphical style really does lend itself well and fits fantastically. This is the definitive version and the definitive way to play this game. If you remember this game, it is worth your time and your money, and even if you don't, it's totally worth it for a first-time experience. Metroid is very unique, and this is one of the best games in the series. Having this game on the Switch is a must-buy. I highly recommend this. So, that's gonna do it for this list. Thank you for watching this video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27 Kane, signing out.